Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Good
Good
afternoon.
afternoon.
Welcome. Oh,
How are
Sarah,
you?
hi.
Yes, she's here.
Hope everybody's doing well today.
Good
Yes.
afternoon. It's fine. Thank you.
Hello. It's a bit
Nice.
gloomy out there and actually a
Yeah.
bit colder than I thought, but anyway, no snow. So
No snow.
They
for
say it's
now.
gonna rain.
Right. We're just going to wait a minute or so and let more people log on. And just to identify this meeting, this is the FY27 Grants Information Session for McHale Grants. Just to make sure everybody's here for the right reason. Okay. I think we're going to get started because we are recording this session. So if people come in a little late, they can catch up on the recording. So my name is Rudy Jung. I'm Director of Programs at McHale. And today I'm joined by Grace Karambiri, our Programs Manager, Danny Keeley, our Manager for Technology and Data Analysis, and Gerard Etienne, our Executive Director, is also with us today. I think I hit all of our staff who are here today.
I'm also here.
Tom is there as well.
Hi
Oh,
there.
hi, Tom. I'm sorry. Tom
No worries.
Colling, our Director for Finance and Administration. Um, so let's get started. We like to start off this presentation every year with kind of a little bit of an overview of our grants program, as well as McHale's strategic priorities and the need for adult ESOL in Montgomery County. So I'm going to cover these to start out. And then we'll get into more of the detail about the grant guidelines, information about the application form, the timeline, and the process. So I will let my colleagues continue on with that detail. But I'd like to encourage everybody to ask questions as they come up. Please add them to the chat. I think that's probably the most efficient way. But we'll stop here and there um, to see if there are questions. So with that, we'll just jump right in. So our McHale Grants Program has been around since 2007. We administrate grants that are funded by Montgomery County. For this year, FY26, we granted $1.5 million, a bit more than $1.5 million, to 24 organizations for 30 programs. So our objective is to increase the number of classes as well as to improve the quality of the learning experience that can lead to increased learner gains. And we try to provide different types of learning opportunities for different types of learners. There are many different reasons why learners want to learn English, and we want to be sure that there are opportunities that meet the needs of these different types of learners. So that is the importance of the diversity of the provider organizations across the county. Um, Certain learners may be more comfortable in taking classes once a week and may, really appreciate the types of classes that are offered by our faith-based organizations on the weekends or drop-in classes offered by community-based organizations. And then there are those who want to study for, more intently. Um, and we have, and Grace will be getting into this, different levels of grants to meet those different needs. I think, did I finish that slide? Sorry, could you go back one? Um, the final couple of points here I wanted to make was that in our grant making, we try to encourage the reduction of barriers to learning. So that means that with grant funding, you can support childcare for parents or for um, learners in your classes during class, as well as transportation. So, and just to say that our total funding that we will give for the 2026-2027 year, FY27, all depends on the county budget, as usual. And this budget will be coming out in March. Okay, next slide, please. So just an overview of how our um, grants program fits into our larger strategic plan. This was the guiding principle in our 2024-26 plan, which was we believe all English language learners should have easy access to high quality programs that respect their cultures, value their voices, and honor their identities and life experiences. Um, and so we are in the final year of this 3-year strategic plan. And actually, there's a little bit of an error in this slide. Sorry, the strategic priorities listed there are in our current plan, but we expect that our new one, which we are going to be working on this spring, will continue to be along these lines. So our major programmatic strategic priorities are making sure that the coalition's programs will provide culturally responsive and learner-centered instruction and reduce barriers. And secondly, that adults from underrepresented communities will have greater access to English classes. So moving on. I'd like to say a few words about the current need for adult ESOL in the county. So the most recent data, and this is really, really recent, just available 2 weeks ago, I think, Danny, yes, is that there are an estimated 144,000 adults in Montgomery County that speak English less than very well. And this is based on the American Community Survey that the U.S. Census Bureau runs. It's a bit of an increase from the previous year, which was 143,000, I believe. And if you look at over the years, this number continues to grow. The number of learners served in FY25, which is our most recent completed year, by MCAEL funded programs was a bit over 5,600 students, learners. And if you include some of the other larger programs in the coalition as a whole covers at least 11,890. So you can see that that is not even 10%. It's something like 8.5% or something like that. While all of your programs are doing a great job, there's still a lot of work to be done. Um, we offer a couple of different tools that may be helpful, that are helpful in understanding the need. One is the McHale Story Map, which some of you are familiar with already, I know. And in this story map, we take census data on where the limited English proficient adults live in the county. And just to point out, limited English proficient is a Census Bureau, how should I say, name that describes people who speak less than very well. Um, we take that data and we overlay that with all of the data we have about learners who are served in McHale funded programs and the other larger programs like Gilchrist Center and Montgomery College to see what percentage of these are taking classes in each zip code. And it really gives we'll show a map in a second here. The other tool we have is the McHale Equity Focus Areas Mapping tool. And I believe that we're going to talk a little bit more about that later. But anyway, both of these are available on our website and they are hyperlinked to this presentation as well, which I think we're going to share afterwards. So moving on to some graphics here. So this is the map from our most recent story map, the FY25 year. And you can see the dark purple areas are the areas in which I believe this is Danny, this is the map which is showing how well the coalition is meeting the need. Is that correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the darker purple areas are where a higher percentage of the folks who speak English less than very well are taking classes. But you can see even the dark purple, it's just 15%. So it's still not like even meeting 25% or, higher. Um, so the stars and the crosses are the locations of programs. And you can explore that map and the other charts in the story map further. I think the next map we have here is just so to give some interesting information rather, is to look kind of at trends over the last 5 years and where learners reside who are taking classes. So you can see that there has been a great increase in the number of learners who are taking classes in Up County, including Gaithersburg and Germantown. And then you can see some of the other trends. There are actually in FY25 there are fewer who live in Mid-County. And then we have always kept track of East Montgomery because in East County there have just always been fewer learning opportunities and fewer learners. But recently there's been more activity in East County, which is a good thing, and that number has gone up slightly. And then with the um, online classes that are available, that number has gone up a bit. So anyway, there's a lot of this more information in the story map, so we urge you to take a look at that. Are there any questions before we move on to specifics on the guidelines and application? Okay, well then I'll turn it over to Grace.
Okay, thank you, Rudy. I'm going to talk about the guidelines and the application form. So these are the priorities for all of the grants. We focus on maintaining, the program should maintain or expand services in the zip codes that are listed on the screen. So Germantown, the Veers Mill Corridor, Silver Spring, and White Oak, as well as Colesville. And again, you can see that the areas of need are shown on our MCAEL Equity Focus area map and the darkest purple area. Also, classes for populations that are currently lacking access to English learning opportunities, as well as classes that are on the weekend, Saturday or Sunday. There are two major changes to the grants process if you've already done this before. The maximum amount for the access grant has increased from $20,000 to $23,000, and the access small grant we've changed the name to the pathway grant. And so this is just a quick overview or snapshot of the amount for the grants as well as the eligibility. The program grants are $23,001, so pretty much $23,000 and up. The access grants are from $7,501 to $23,000, and the pathway grants are from $7,500 or below. And the big difference between the program grants and the access grants to the pathway grants is that the pathway grants do not require that the nonprofit group be incorporated or have a 501c3 tax exempt status. So first grant we're going to talk about is the programs grant, and that is in order to be able to get the programs grant, the organization needs to be able to offer 120 hours of instructional time a year per learner. So that's just the amount of hours that are available to the learner if they want to go to every single class. Program grants also have to have an established infrastructure. So they need to have the staff, they need to know ESOL practices, and have an assessment process. They also need to be able to show that they can successfully carry out a program and that they have managed enrollment, which is enrollment that has registration dates, that has a start time, an end date. It's not a drop-in class where you can come in and not come anytime. And like I said before, this is technically $23,001 and up. And you can use this, the use of funds can be for support services such as childcare and transportation. And they also are to be used to strengthen the program management and capacity for the organization, but they also can be used for indirect costs. So moving on to the Access Grant, this was designed to create access for those who aren't really quite ready to take more formal English classes. These can be classes that are drop-in, so these are what I was talking about before. Their adult learners can join at any time in the session or the semester, and the programs offer classes that are less than 120 hours per year per learner. And this is the one that went up. So from 7,501 to $23,000. The funds can be used for similar things to the program grant, like instructor fees, professional development, program coordination time, Zoom licenses, and childcare and transportation as well. So this was the Access Small Grant in the past, but now it's called the Pathway Grant. And the Pathway Grant is to encourage those faith-based and community-based organizations to offer English classes. This grant is you do not need to have a 501c3 exempt status or be incorporated in order to get this grant. And if you are, an important thing is that if you're applying for a program or an access grant, you cannot apply for the Pathway Grant because this is meant for small organizations. You can apply for program grant and an access grant, multiple, but not with the Pathway Grant. And this can be used for instructor fees, program coordination time, textbooks, mainly the main cost of running the program, but if your budget allows, it can also be used for childcare during the class time. And this is just general guidance for using the funds in general. MCAEL grant funding cannot be used to buy refreshments or food or gifts for volunteers, instructors, or learners. And the grant partners need to ensure that the curriculum that's supported with MCAEL funding doesn't encourage or doesn't contain language or visuals that advocate for a particular to participate in any religious or political activities, and that the learning environment is inclusive and welcoming to participants of all backgrounds and experiences. And here's the grant timeline, which is on our grants website, which is www.mccael.org/grants. And so we released the grant deadline, the grant guidelines on the 12th. We are currently in the grants information session. The portal opens up on February 24th, and we have a Q&A session on March 18th, 19th, and the 20th, where you can meet with MCAEL staff for 30 minutes, and we can answer questions that you might have if you're a first-time applicant or a new program staff. April 9th is when the grant application is due and the portal will close. And then the May 13th and May 15th are the days that grant applicants are going to do the interviews with the grant panel. And the awards are announced in mid-June. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the application forms. But first, let me ask, does anyone have any questions? And Danny, if you could maybe screen if anybody has questions.
I can't see. It won't even see me.
Yes.
Yes, I have a question.
Sure.
Can I speak now?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. You were saying that I think it's the third grant is the one that you can have mixed student in it. Like if the student come, they start coming and then they take a break and then they come back.
Yes. So for
Is
the
that
access grants as well as the pathway grant, you can do those drop-in
is
classes.
that possible for that grant though?
Yes, for the drop-in
Okay.
class. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Great. Any other questions? Okay. All right, so I am going to move on to what the actual application process is. So you need to complete 2 online forms. That is the narrative application, which it has attachments to it, which are organizational supporting documents that you need to complete. And then there is the application data summary, which you also has an attachment, which is has the data and budget workbook or the program budget, or well, actually, this now it's one workbook, and then you need to make sure that you're responding to all of the questions. This slide is a little old. Sorry, my apologies for that. But you can find this data and budget workbook on our website. So Danny will put the link that I have on the grants for the data and budget work templates on the website, and the data and budget workbook have a bunch of different tabs on them as well as instructions. So they talk about enrollment, what the enrollment targets are, if you are a returning applicant, class list for FY26 and FY27, the budget and the revenue for FY26 and 27. So I am going to actually, I'm not going to talk about it. Tom is going to talk about it. But later on, we're going to show more about the budgeting forms. It's important to note things that are highlighted in yellow and the program expenses for returning applicants. And it's very important to provide a clear cost basis for each line item. And you'll see this as we go forward. So here is the data and budget workbook. This is the targets and the actuals. When filling these out, you want to make sure that you're paying attention to this over here. So the fields that are in white, these are fields that are auto-calculated. The fields that are in this pinkish color, you want to make sure you fill out those portions. And the fields that are in yellow are required only for program grants, and they're optional for access and pathway grants. So that's the targets and actuals tab. And then, like I said, we have a class summary tab. So you're making sure that you're filling out. This is if you are returning grant, you want to make sure you're filling out the session, the class name, all this information that you should be familiar with. And everyone fills out the class summary tab for FY27 as well. So these are the information that you project that you're going to have. So the amount of classes, the class sites, and how many target learners you expect to have. And I am going to pass this budget part on to Tom.
Thanks, Grace. Hi again, everyone. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. So again, just echoing a couple of things that Grace mentioned, there are instructions for these next couple of pieces to the workbook. So please ensure you have a read through before you start filling it out. The budget section includes space for the current year, so FY26 and FY27, which will be the year obviously you're applying for. So we do ask if you're a returning applicant to include the numbers from this year if possible. It just allows us to compare across years. It's useful for our grant panel and for MCAEL staff as well to see how your program might have changed or how you're hoping it might change from year to year. Again, like Grace mentioned, cost bases should be easy for us to understand, work out, and they should be present for every cost in your budget. There are a couple of examples in the instructions, but a simple one is instead of saying like $2,000 for textbooks, say we're going to buy 40 textbooks, $50 each, the total is $2,000. So again, whenever possible, just err on the side of including more information rather than less, because that's one of the primary reasons why we have to go back and forth with grant applicants. Another reason why we might have to do that is just mathematical errors on the workbook on the budget section. So if you as you're working through it, please do check your work. We do have Danny's included wherever possible formulas in the workbook. So there are some fields that will sum automatically, will calculate percentages automatically and things, but just whenever you can, if you could check that what you're putting down is adding up to what you're intending it to add up to. You'll see in the little insert on the slide here, or I hope you can see it, it's fairly small, but one of the notable changes this year is that we're asking everyone to include their indirect costs relating to their program in their budgets. Uh, Currently, only program grants are eligible to have any of these costs paid by MCAEL. But we do want to get a sense of what the costs are across all our grant applicants, just so we can build a more consistent and accurate picture of the true cost of providing all these services. So if we go on to the next slide, which is the revenue side of things. And just to be clear, this revenue slide is for detail on revenue for your English language program only. So not your full organizational revenues, just those that you plan to use for this program. So in that regard, please ensure you include the MCAEL request that you're asking for in this section. And again, there's a section for FY26, so current year. So include that if you can, if you're a returning applicant. Also to mention, again, you'll see the kind of insert, the smaller insert at the bottom corner there. That's the in-kind section. Another small change we made this year is to pull the numbers in from the expenses side, and that's just to make sure that the in-kind expenses balance with the in-kind revenues, or they should always be the same across both sides of the budget. So that's a change we made to try and encourage that to happen. But please do, again, in the spirit of making sure that we're getting the full picture of the costs of programs, please do include any in-kind contributions you're expecting. And with that, I'll hand it back to Grace.
Thank you, Tom. And please note that I've seen a few errors in this PowerPoint, so I'm going to fix those errors. So go with what's in the PowerPoint whenever I send it out to you later. And I am going to pass things on to Danny, I believe. Let me make sure.
No, you have the grant review.
Oh,
But
wait,
I think we should address some questions on the chat first.
Okay. And before we do that, Marva, I see your hand raised.
Yes, thank you for taking my questions. There are two. You mentioned to provide the class list. Can you explain what that is, please?
Sure. So this is where you're putting down each class that you plan to have. So you're putting down what session you're going to have the class, what the name of the class is, what level the class is going to be, what is the mode, is it going to be hybrid or online or in person? Then you're putting where it's located, the days of the week, the times, and how many learners you think are going to be joining, as well as the hours, how many hours will they be having, and how many times will the class meet. So you're doing this for all the classes that you plan to have for the fiscal year 27.
Right, thank you. I appreciate that. And the other question is, can the MCAEL grant monies be used for marketing?
As in, like, can you give me an example?
Yes, to use social media, for example, to reach persons who you would like to have the classes to include.
So no, McHale funds need to be used mostly for the program itself. So for the getting the instructors, the books, things like that, not for marketing purposes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I see in the chat, I think Rudy
He's answering, yeah.
is answering. So I'm not sure. I don't think I need to go through the chat because the answers are.
I can answer a couple as well.
Yeah.
If that's okay.
Sure.
So let me just scroll up to the.
And if you can repeat the question because the recording won't
Yeah.
have the chat.
Yeah, for the purposes of our recording. So I see one from Mark. If you're not currently funded MCAEL program, but you have been offering classes, should you include those details in the worksheet? And similarly, I would extend that to the budget side. So if you've already been doing the work and you've been paying for some of those expenses and bringing in money to fund that work, should you reflect that in your application? Yes, I would say it's not particularly required, but it's useful, like I said, for the grant panel to get a little bit more context, and useful for them to get a sense of the work you've already been doing on that front. Let's see the next question from Sarah. Do we need to include complete data for FY26 if the program is being transferred to another organization? Again, this has happened before. I would say it's not essential. It's preferable if you have the option of including that information to do so. But we understand it's not always possible. Sometimes things don't get shared. So if you can, please do. If you can't, we understand. I see Rudy already answered Charo's question, but I'll just repeat it here. So first-time applicants for an access grant can leave the FY26 section blank. Megan asks, can we give an example of an indirect cost? Yes, so many examples. These are things that typically are essential for your organization to run, but they don't relate specifically to your program. So if your organization, for example, has to have an audit, that's a cost the organization has to have. It incurs it every year or every couple of years at least. And you might think that you can put that indirect cost into your program because your program is part of the activities of the organization that necessitate it having to have an audit because it's part of its activities. But it doesn't relate specifically to the program. You could think of things like HR functions that aren't specifically dealing with, parts of the program, and things like that. So it's functions that are essential to the workings of the organization, not specifically for a program. But again, the change this year is we're asking everyone to include those costs as you think they apply to your program, which can sometimes be a bit of a gray area. So if you have specific questions on that as you're going through the process, please get in touch and we can work that out with you. And the last question from Charo, can MCAEL grants cover 100% of the program cost, or is it a requirement that other sources of funding are found? Yes, we can do in theory cover 100% of the program cost. There's no rule against that. And particularly for smaller organizations who are just starting to do this work, it's not unheard of that that's the case. I would say that one of the things the grant panel might consider is what other sources of funding you're bringing in, particularly if you're a more mature organization and the program's been going on for a number of years. That might be something that the grant panel is interested in, kind of how you're leveraging MCAEL funding to bring in other funding, or just what other sources of funding as an organization you've been receiving to try and support your activities. But in a word, yes, we can.
Thank you, Tom. Are there any other questions before I move on to the next section? Okay. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the grant review panel. So the community grant review panel is a panel that is representative of the county. They have expertise on adult ESOL or education in general, nonprofit and business professionals. They have experience with grant making or grant review and with specific populations and their needs. And they are from all different regions of the county. The MCAEL staff members, we support the applicants through the process and we coordinate with the grant review panel to facilitate the grant process, but we do not make funding decisions or participate in the funding allocation process. If you have any more questions, you can email us at program@mcael.org. And for first-time applicants or new program staff, we are going to have the Q&A that I talked about, and that's going to be on March 18th, 19th, and 20th. And you can sign up through our website, and Danny is going to put, I think, the link for the Jot. It's a Jot form that you can sign up for the Q&A. Okay, and a reminder is for the Q&A, and also that the portal opens up on February 24th. Okay, I'm going to pass things on to Rudy or Danny, sorry.
There's a
think
question, sorry, as well in the chat about supporting funding for additional part-time staff to address retention.
Normally, I think we would consider that as part of a program grant, the larger grants, but the access and pathway grants really pretty much need to focus on core costs. So that would be instructors and the program managers. I actually will need to log off soon. I know that this is the end of our presentation unless you would like to see how the grant applications portal works. I know that Danny's going to give a presentation on that. So thank you all for coming.
Thank you, Rudy. I will pass things on to Danny.
Okay, bye.
Hello, everyone. I've been talking already, but so Grace, if you can go to the next. So as you're seeing here, if you are okay with the portal and if you want to log off, that's completely fine. You will see the recording as well. We received the recording and the PowerPoint at the end of the presentation. So if you want to stay and if it's your first time using the portal, it's just a basic way of registering, login on your portal, and then creating a new application. So next slide, please. So when you go to the link for the portal, when you receive it, you have the sign in. But since if it's your first time joining our grant process, you need to click signed up. So Grace, if you can I let me see if I can. Can you see my? If I do like this? Okay, so you click here on sign up, and then we'll go to the next screen. I think I need to clean. So when you have like a sign up form, so like putting your name. When you click on sign up, you have your name, your organization, a basic sign up as any other sign up form. When you log in for the first time, then you see the next screen, Grace. Next slide, where you can create your profile. So you have your login and your profile. They are two different things. Your login is basic information about you, and then your profile is where you're gonna add information about your organization that you are applying the grant with. So when you click on that create a profile to get started, you see some basic informations about you as well and about the organization. But this is not about your login. You're already logged into the system. So here you're gonna add basic information. If you scroll down, we are not scrolling here because it's just a screenshot, but you're gonna scroll down and you have like basic information about your organization, including some documents. I don't remember, Grace, if you have the documents screen there. Do we? The next one? No. So on the organization profile, you also upload your 503. I forgot that
501c3.
501c3, sorry. Your document for organization. If you are a nonprofit, if you are not, you just describe that where you are adding information about your organization profile. When you finish this, you will be able to see the get started. So you'll say that your organization profile is completed, and you see the get started. It's where you start your grant application. So as we said before, you can apply for more than one. If you are applying, for example, for a program and an access, both will be different applications on your application on your portal. So it's where you start is clicking on the Get Started. And the first thing that you should do when you click there, next slide, you see the type of grant that you are applying for. So you have, if you are returning or not, the organization name will be already filled up for you because like from your profile. And then you pick the type of grant because this will trigger which questions you get for your application. Not questions, but like what you need to answer for your application, because those questions will depend on the type of grant that you're applying. So this is the first. So if you keep scrolling, you won't see much stuff. You won't see much things to fill out until you click the type of grant that you're applying for. Next. And at the end of the form, for all of the types, you see the documents that you need to upload. They can be different depending on the grant that you're applying, the type that you're applying. But it's simple. You just click on the select file and select on your computer where the file is and upload to the system. You can only upload one file per each box there for each question. So if you have different ideas of organization documents, you can just put all in one PDF and then submit just one document for each category there. Next. And then for the application data summary, you have another tab. So you see when you log in for the first time for your application, you have two sections. One section is the narrative with the documents. That's what we saw. And then you have your data summary. Oh, Grace, we don't have data summary anymore, right? Remove that part because we have everything on the Excel
I
now.
think we still have it.
We still have it? Okay. Yeah, but it's less questions now. You don't need to really put some numbers. You just give an idea of your numbers, but not really adding the numbers. So you have the application data summary there as well that you have some questions. And then because you already selected the type of grant that you're applying on the first section, here it will have the correct questions as well. And I believe that's it. So if you have any questions regarding how to apply, how to create your profile, just email us or connect in any way that we can help you.
And I thank you so much, Danny. I do want to add that that was a general overview of what the portal, the application portal will look like. It might look a little bit different, but in general, that's what it will look like. So, are there any other questions?